Hello, and welcome back to the Writer's Hive. This is a weekly chat. Is it weekly now? We're weekly chat where we talk about the demystifying the writing and publishing process. I'm Caitlin Duncan. As always, I have Julie and Amber with me. And today we are taking a question from our community. If you didn't know, we have a Discord community. And this episode is all about cover design. So we're going to discuss our experience with cover design, how to find cover designers, and how to communicate during the earlier steps of cover design and through revisions. So, Julie, do you want to kick us off?
I would love to. I have a unique experience with cover designs in that I went with like a one-stop publisher where I get all of my services at one place. So I didn't have to look for a cover design, artist that I liked. I didn't have to, search through portfolios or anything. I was given a cover designer. And then the process was pretty streamlined because it, wasn't their first time doing it. So I think I had to give examples of covers that I liked and then any design elements that I wanted to see personally on the cover. And I quickly realized that what I wanted was no bueno. I had all these ideas for things that I wanted on the covers, and then they brought back the examples that they had mocked up on what I thought I wanted, and I did not want any of them. So the one that they kind of came up with on their own was amazing, and then from there tweaking it was relatively easy. I found that the clearer I was in what I wanted, the better things went. So really kind of being very specific about a hand placement or the size of something. I went on, and my first cover for Curse and Ash had a tarot card on it that I didn't like originally. So I actually went online to a stock image site and found a card that I wanted like exactly. And I just said, can you use this one? So sometimes, I would do the research to go forward and pull images. I did that with the second cover as well. I knew I wanted a castle in the background for A Prophecy in Ash, and they gave me like a very flat medieval looking castle that was just like a shadow. And I was like, no, I want depth. I want like a wall, a garden, a tree, a something. And I gave them exact picture references so that they knew exactly what was going on in my head. So I think really honing in on what you want as quickly as possible and being as clear as possible, using your own photo examples to provide for them really makes the entire process easier. I struggled at the very beginning with actually even critiquing their work and giving suggestions until my lovely friends told me that, this is what the process was, and I had to just let them know the changes that I wanted. I didn't want to offend anybody's creative liberties, but really, if there's something there that you don't like, use your voice, let them know. They're not going to be upset with you. Usually the things that I would think were going to take forever were very, very quick, like tweaks and fixes that weren't going to be an inconvenience, but were going to probably bother me had I not said something. So just clarity of communication is super big.
So Amber has a unique perspective where she has commissioned covers before, and she is also a cover designer. So I'm looking forward to her tips.
My experience with cover designers is when I originally self-published, I had it was called Celtic Magic series back in the day. It was actually called the Abby Kane trilogy, but only 2 books came out, and then they were subsequently taken down, so that doesn't really matter. But I actually just put on Twitter, I was like, I'm looking for a cover designer. Does anybody know where to look for cover designers? And a cover designer actually responded to me, and then I worked with her. I didn't do any research. I didn't do my due diligence, but she did make, for the time, a very pretty cover. It's not really in what's in style now, but for the time it was really popular. So you can see she did like 3D imaging kind of a thing with like a fairy and I was very specific with her. She brought back one and he was naked, and I was like, this is not that kind of book. It's a YA. Can you please put some jeans on the man? But she changed like facial expressions for me and things like that. So it was really it was really the first time I was like, okay, you have to be very specific because they they have to know exactly what you're talking. Not everybody understands the words that you use, because you could be from two different places. And I think that she's actually from like Sweden or something. So some of the words she'd be like, can you explain what you mean by that? Because I don't know that word. It's an American or a Texas word and I don't understand it. So that was that. Then I realized that with some background in some like graphic design that I did in college and everything, I was like, I could probably do some of these myself. And so I actually came up with, this one was the first one that I did myself. It was a sci-fi romance. And I just kind of manipulated stock photos to make this. And I think it's fine. But then when I made this one, I was actually really proud of this one that I did also manipulating stock images. But since then, I have started to, um, I've not self-published or published anything that I needed to work on another cover since that short story collection, but I have created a few, and I think that what Julie talked about, being very specific in what you want and giving them the information and not being like vague, like, oh, I don't know, maybe if there was like a planet and it's like, okay, what kind of planet is it? Is it a red planet? Is it look kind of like Earth? Like, what is it? It's helpful. I also do think that when I work with someone, I also ask them, I say, hey, give me an example, like at least 3 examples of book covers that you like Julie did with her cover designer. That does really help the designer understand like what they find attractive in a cover so that they can kind of hone it in. I also ask for Pinterest boards if they have any, so I can understand their aesthetic and I understand. Like I had a friend that said that it was like an Arthurian legend, but then the Pinterest board that she gave me had very like Japanese inspired like armor and stuff on it. And I was like, maybe we need to like really come up with the words that you're looking for, because Arthurian and Japanese aren't the same thing. So, and I think she even said Viking at one point. And I'm like, those are 3 different things. You need to hone in exactly what you're looking for here. I don't want to give you something that looks very Japanese and you're like, they're not in Japan. And I'm like, well, all your Pinterest boards are. So just communication and telling them exactly what you want and not being too vague. And that's just kind of, I think, what I would ask for from somebody. And I also do like the idea of giving them the leeway to give you an example of one based on what they think is like popular and they think would work for the genre, because a lot of times cover designers do that research up front and they know exactly what's good for the genre. And maybe you have this idea of an image of a cover, and like what happened with Julie, somebody gives you that cover and you're like, oh no, that's not great. And that's not at all what I wanted. And they're like, that's exactly what you asked for. And sometimes it is nice to have a little bit of flexibility in there to give them some of that. But if you've already done the research of your genre and you already know what's going to work, being specific about that and letting them know, like, there's no room for wiggle. This is exactly what I want. They'll give you that. They will have no problem with that. That's my experience as with covers so far.
So my experience is a bit different. Because I was traditionally published, I rarely had a say in what my cover looked like. And anytime I would like say something, they would just be like, well, this is what the marketing team likes. So I think in all of my covers, I only had like one small piece changed in one cover out of 11 books. So I had, so Her Buried Lives and Soul Taken were through one designer, and I had a great experience overall with them. They were sort of the first self-publishing experience I had, and they had a very robust survey that I had to fill out. Like, it took me a couple days to go through it and be very specific on what I wanted for the covers. So I gave them the synopsis, what the main characters look like, what genre it was, and then I had to look at covers that I liked in the genre, and they also wanted covers that I didn't like, and then like I had to explain why I liked and didn't like them. So that was really helpful. And the options that they gave me, they usually gave me 2 options, they were both on the mark for the genre, and then it was like tweaking from there. Take Back Your Book. I used Mibblart. I think that's how you say it, or it's Mibblart. I'm not sure. They're fantastic. They are a Ukraine-based cover design company, and they are relatively affordable. And they are expanding like every 6 months. They have like brand new things. So they were a pleasure to work with. I think the only thing I had with them was the image of the hand holding the book. It was a little different, and then they swapped it out and it was perfect. So they were great to work with. They weren't as robust as the other one when it came to the survey. And then the successful hybrid author, that was through 100 covers, and they were great to work with as well. They have a lot of options for covers in terms of packages, like how much, if you want like hardcover, paperback, all that stuff. So you can be very, very selective with them on what you want. So I had good experiences. I learned a lot in the process. Sort of the common theme of this episode seems to be like being very specific on what you want. Most authors like myself are not graphic designers. So like I see a pretty cover, but I don't know how to get there. So knowing what you want and what you don't want, and using descriptive words, being very descriptive in what you want and what you don't want is helpful, as Amber said, to cover designers. So one of the questions that we had was how to find a cover designer. So since I've had to find a couple, I figured I would sort of dive into some ways that you can do that. So one way that you can do it is through friends. So if you have a network of other authors and are self-publishing, because trad, you really have no say, ask them who did their covers, ask them if they would recommend this designer, see what the experience was like overall. And also too, you can, if there's an author in your genre that you really like, most of the time, I'd say like 95% of the time, on the copyright page is where you can find the cover designer for that book. Because I know I haven't met a cover designer that didn't want their name in the copyright page. So take a look at them. And also look at their portfolio and what they've done, and see if you can work with them, and get everything up front, get their time frame, because some cover designers are booking like 6 months to a year out. Also get their budget, make sure they're within your budget. And one thing I did with Soul Taken was that the cover designer gave me a discount to do all 3 covers at once. So if you have like a series coming out, see if they can offer you a discount, because usually once you have the cover of the first book, it's little tweaks here and there to do the second, third, and whatever other book. So those are my little tips.
Yeah, I also got a discount when I went with my cover designer because I did the whole trilogy at once. But I actually didn't reach out until the second book. And then so she did the second book, the third book, and then redid the first book for me so that it had a new cover to match. And she did also give me a fairly large discount for getting all 3 books through her. That's a good tip.
Also, to another option, if you are having, a budget issue and you want to use a smaller budget for the book, a lot of cover designers offer pre-made covers, which are always fun to look at. And you can go to most cover designers' websites and they'll offer pre-mades for usually a lower cost. And you really have to take it as is, and they'll just change like the title and the author name and maybe a tagline. But I've used pre-mades before, and they're just a lot easier to use and less expensive. So that's something to look at as well. If you have like a lower budget that you want to do for your next book, pre-mades is definitely an option.
I will also say, if you're just planning, at least for me personally, when I know that I'm just planning on doing ebook only, no print, or if I'm doing like perhaps a series of novellas and it's just going to be ebook only, I have found a lot of resources online to make my own and feel very comfortable in their quality with things like Canva. The Canva Pro program has a lot of amazing cover like templates that are also like, they're designed to be kind of dynamic, have some dimension, they look really nice and you can customize them. So if you're super, super, super on a budget and you've done your research and you know what the market looks like and you know your age range, your genre, what other books that are popular in that realm look like, and you feel comfortable doing that yourself, and that's the budget you have, is you don't have a budget for it, there are options.
And just to piggyback off of that, like I would never do my own because I don't feel comfortable doing that. But if you do it on your own and it is an option, I would just recommend, like, I know a lot of Facebook groups for writers have like feedback threads. So definitely get feedback from other writers if you are doing it yourself, and other readers, just to make sure that, you know, this is the cover, because it's our biggest marketing tool, our covers. So just make sure that you are able to get some feedback if you're not working with a designer specifically. So the question of the episode is, what are some tips and tricks that you've had along your cover design journey? We'd love to chat with you further in the comments. Also, too, remember that we have a Discord community, so feel free to join us there. The link is in the description box, along with the rest of the links to all of our socials. All right, so that's it for us this week, and we will see you all next week. Bye-bye. Sorry, I was being attacked. Did you see his little arm? His paw? Do you want me to do it again? Okay. Well, thank you so much for, I don't know why I said thank you. No one's doing anything. How do we end these? I forget.